Hey there everyone, Crapgamer here with Crapgamer Reviews, and I'm doing another video. Thanks for checking it out. I really appreciate it. Make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and make sure that you also give this video a thumbing and or liking, because I would appreciate that as well. On to today's topic. I think that one of the things that is very interesting is all the promises that get made at the beginning of the generation. We always hear from all these companies how they're going to deliver the world. Every game's going to get a demo. Every game's going to be this. Every game's going to be that. In particular, Sony was like, get used to 1080p 60 frames per second. You know, we heard that a lot. Give me 1080p 60 frames or give me death. But to this date, looking at like a new exclusive AAA game that Sony has put out, they haven't done a single one that's 1080p and 60 frames per second. They've done some with like an unlocked frame rate that makes it real jumpy or whatever, where you can lock it, like Killzone Shadowfall. I remember they kind of touted that at 1080p 60, and it turned out to be the equivalent of 720p 60 online and 1080p 30 for the single player. And even a game like Uncharted 4, which was 900p 60 for the multiplayer and 1080p 30 for the single player. So I think that they've not really done a good job at kind of delivering on this promise, and that's really nothing new for Sony. I think that they, haven't really delivered on a lot of promises over the years. I mean, if you can look back to even the PS3, where they said that they were going to deliver 120 frames per second and 1080p, and the only reason that they couldn't was because the TVs didn't support the frames per second that they were trying to put out. So they were going to have to make the TVs for it and all this kind of stuff. So I think that that's, typical kind of Sony bullshit. And I'm not saying Microsoft and Nintendo no bullshit either, but this one was most interesting to me because we're going to get the PlayStation Neo, and it looks like that is actually going to be a situation where they're going to finally be able to deliver a 1080p 60 frames per second AAA exclusive. And I think that it's only going to take them 2 versions of the console and probably 4 to 5 years into a generation before they can actually achieve that. Now, I know for a fact that, they won't be able to do it with something like, well, maybe Gran Turismo Sport could do it. I guess that's what they're aiming for, but I'm talking about like something that's probably not a racing game, I mean, I'm sure that, racing games are cool and all, but there's a lot of racing games out there that hit that mark, or even more so, you know what I mean? So even on last gen hardware, a lot of them were hitting the 60 frames per second mark, and the resolution, I guess, is kind of irrelevant to me. But, will we see a 1080p 60 frames per second God of War, or will we see a 1080p 60 frames per second, trying to think of another game that, Shenmue. Why not Shenmue 3? I think that could be a game that would be 1080p 60 frames per second. I'm very interested to see how this plays out, but it is kind of funny to look back and say, hey, Sony, man, you pulled one over on some of the fans and things like that, because, you promised all this stuff up front and you haven't really delivered very much of it. So at the end of the day, hey, maybe we'll finally get that promise delivered, and all it takes is, 5 years and 2 different consoles. So spend $800, wait 5 years, get a 1080p 60 frames per second AAA exclusive from Sony. Woohoo! I think that it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But let me know what you guys think. Are you excited to maybe finally get that promise delivered from Sony? 1080p 60, folks. 1080p 60. That's all that matters, right? That's what makes a game good. So rack them up. Let me know what you guys think. Motherfucking break them pony legs. Thanks for watching. Crapgamer out.